Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions: the mystery of the Serpent Mound, Ohio's 1,000-year-old enigmatic structure points at the stars. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction. Not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. On a ridge above Brush Creek in Adams County, Ohio, stretches a 420-meter earthwork in the perfect form of an uncoiling serpent with an oval shape, interpreted as an egg or a sun disk held in its open mouth. The Serpent Mound is the largest serpent effigy in the world. Its head aligns precisely with the summer solstice sunset. Its coils correspond to other astronomical positions along the horizon. For a century and a half, archaeologists have argued about who built it and when. Carbon dating has produced two contradictory answers separated by 300 years. The builders left no writing, no burial goods, and no clear cultural signature that unambiguously identifies them. The ridge on which it sits commands a 360-degree view of the sky, ideal for astronomical observation. Whatever the Serpent Mound was built for, its creators understood the sky. Why did they need a 420-meter serpent to mark what they knew? This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the global puzzle of unexplained ancient construction, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. The sky was the original clock, calendar, and map. Before writing, before money, before cities, human beings looked up and organized their lives around what they saw. The position of the sun at solstice told them when to plant and when to harvest. The rising of specific stars marked the seasons. The phases of the moon governed ceremonial calendars in cultures from Ireland to India. Our ancestors were not casual observers of the night sky. They were meticulous, obsessive, and precise in a way that rivals modern astronomical science. This precision is encoded in stone at sites around the world. Newgrange in Ireland is aligned so precisely that sunlight enters its inner chamber only during the 5 days around the winter solstice, and it has done so every year for more than 5,000 years. The pyramids of Giza are oriented to true north with an accuracy of 0.05 degrees. Stonehenge tracks both the midsummer sunrise and the midwinter sunset, as well as the 18-6-year lunar cycle. These alignments are not accidental. They were engineered with mathematical precision by cultures we have long underestimated. What drove this obsession with celestial mechanics? Partly practical. Agriculture depends on knowing the seasons. But partly something more profound. Ancient cultures believed the sky was alive, that the movements of stars and planets determined the fates of kingdoms and harvests. In this worldview, encoding celestial cycles into permanent stone was not merely useful but sacred. The great monuments of the ancient world are, among other things, the most durable clocks ever built. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter. The core evidence surrounding the Serpent Mound, Ohio's 1,000-year-old enigmatic structure points at the stars, is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. The Serpent Mound stretches 420 meters in length, averages 1.5 meters in height, and is located on a ridge above Brush Creek in Adams County, Ohio. The earthwork depicts an uncoiling serpent whose body forms 7 distinct curves and whose open mouth appears to be grasping or disgorging an oval earthwork at the head. The site was first recorded by Ephraim Square and Edwin Davis in their 1848 Survey of American Antiquities and has been studied continuously since. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes, but as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered early attribution placed the Serpent Mound with the Adena culture, a pre-Columbian people who inhabited the Ohio Valley from approximately 800 BC to 100 AD and who built numerous burial mounds throughout the region. However, carbon dating of charcoal samples from within the mound has produced 2 distinct dates, approximately 320 BC, consistent with Adena, and approximately 1070 AD, which would associate the mound with the later Fort Ancient culture. This discrepancy has not been resolved and is central to current scholarly debate. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. Archaeoastronomer William Romaine has argued extensively that the Fort Ancient date of approximately 1070 AD is correct, and that the mound was deliberately constructed by Fort Ancient people as an astronomical monument. His analysis demonstrates that the head of the serpent aligns with the summer solstice sunset, while specific coils in the body align with the winter solstice sunrise, the equinox sunrise, and other significant astronomical positions along the local horizon. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, the year 1070 AD is archaeoastronomically significant. In 1054 AD, a supernova explosion created the Crab Nebula and produced a light source visible in daylight for 23 days, one of the most dramatic astronomical events in recorded history, noted in Chinese, Arab, and Native American records. In 1066 AD, Halley's Comet appeared. Researchers, including Romaine, have proposed that the Serpent Mound may have been built as a cosmological response to these extraordinary celestial events visible in the years immediately before its construction. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of the oval earthwork at the head of the serpent, interpreted alternately as an egg being consumed, an egg being laid, or a solar disk, sits at the precise alignment point for the summer solstice sunset. Its shape and placement have been compared to serpent-devouring sun iconography found in cultures worldwide, including ancient Egypt, Mesoamerica, and various Asian traditions. Whether this represents independent convergent symbolism or evidence of cultural contact remains a matter of debate. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding. LiDAR aerial survey conducted in 2019 revealed additional earthwork features associated with the Serpent Mound site that are not visible from the ground. These include linear earthworks and possible enclosure features in the surrounding landscape that may represent a broader sacred complex extending beyond the main effigy. The LiDAR findings suggest the site was part of a larger planned landscape rather than a single isolated construction. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations, and in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the Serpent Mound, Ohio's 1,000-year-old enigmatic structure points at the stars. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that William Rahman's archaeoastronomical analysis supports a fort ancient construction date of approximately 1070 AD, making the Serpent Mound a sophisticated astronomical calendar and spiritual manu, meant built in response to dramatic celestial events of the late 11th century. Rahman's alignments have been independently confirmed by multiple surveyors. Critics note that the Adena carbon date of 320 BC also has evidentiary support, and that the astronomical alignments, while real, may reflect intentional planning by either cultural group rather than proving one over the other. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that Clark Hardman, Jr., and Marjorie Hardman argued for Adena origin with possible later repair or modification by the fort ancient culture, suggesting the 1070 AD date reflects a renovation of an older structure rather than original construction. This two-phase model would explain both carbon dates and is consistent with the practice of later cultures reusing and modifying earlier sacred sites, a pattern well documented across the Eastern Woodlands archaeological record. This theory is controversial and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that Robert Fletcher proposed that the Serpent Mound encodes the 18-6-year lunar standstill cycle, the period over which the moon's rising and setting positions oscillate between their northernmost and southernmost extremes, rather than a solar calendar. Fletcher's analysis identified alignments along the body coils consistent with lunar standstill positions, suggesting the mound's primary function was lunar rather than solar astronomical observation. This interpretation remains a minority position, but has not been definitively refuted. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree, that is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers, working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the Serpent Mound, Ohio's 1,000-year-old enigmatic structure points at the stars, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes the 1996 radiocarbon dating program produced 2 charcoal samples from within the Serpent Mound yielding dates of approximately 300 BC and 1070 AD, respectively. Both samples came from contexts interpreted as original construction fill. The 2 dates cannot both represent original construction without invoking a 2-phase building history, and the discrepancy has been used by different researchers to support opposing attributions. The dating program has not been repeated with a larger sample set. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented summer solstice alignment at the head of the Serpent Mound has been confirmed by independent surveys from multiple research teams over several decades. The alignment is precise to within the margin of measurement error and is now accepted as intentional rather than coincidental by the overwhelming majority of researchers who have studied the site. Additional alignments along the body coils with other astronomical positions have been identified but remain more contested in terms of intentionality. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed the 2019 LIDAR survey of the Serpent Mound landscape revealed associated earthwork features surrounding the main effigy that are invisible from the ground due to vegetation and subtle topography. These features indicate the site was part of a broader planned complex, lending support to interpretations of the Serpent Mound as a major ceremonial center rather than a standalone monument. Full analysis of the LIDAR data and ground truthing of the associated features is ongoing. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the Serpent Mound, Ohio's 1,000-year-old enigmatic structure points at the stars. Now, we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. Ohio History Connection maintains and administers the Serpent Mound site, which is Ohio's most visited archaeological landmark and a National Historic Landmark. Current scholarly consensus leans toward the fort ancient construction date of approximately 1070 AD, though the Adena date has not been definitively ruled out. Astronomical alignments are confirmed. Their precise intended meaning is debated. In 1987, a local preservation group purchased the land from private owners to prevent development, rescuing the site for public access. The 2019 LIDAR survey has opened new research directions that are expected to reshape understanding of the Serpent Mound's place within the broader ceremonial landscape of prehistoric Ohio. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the Serpent Mound, Ohio's 1,000-year-old enigmatic structure points at the stars, from the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Serpent Mound ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.